Yeah, well, I got to ask you about that just to kick it off because that's your email, that's your company name. What is purple? What does it mean?
Purple has just always been a color that I've loved, and I don't know, like as early as I remember, like all the way back from my childhood. Actually, there was this there's this animated film or short series called like The Purple Phantom, like in the 90s. And it was something that I used to like watch with my dad, and it was just like kind of a different superhero type of story. And I don't know, that's kind of when my fascination with purple started. And then as I was kind of growing into becoming a filmmaker, I love how purple represents like wealth and creativity and peace and prosperity. And so it kind of fit along with what I was trying to do. And it's
That's right.
also
I
just a beautiful color.
I remember yeah, reading a long time ago that it is connected to royalty, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it had something to do with like it was the hardest color to create and was very expensive to create. And if you
Hmm.
had something purple, it meant you had the money to create something purple.
Right. And there's also just like if you look through history, especially like on the Silk Road, there's a lot of like history around like how just unique and special that color was and the sort of like mysticism around it. And so I like also being a little mysterious.
Well, not on this podcast, my friend. You're
Right.
going to reveal all. I last thing
They're
about
all
purple though, I'll remember there was a book about production design, and the title was "If It's Purple, Someone's Going to Die." And I don't it not that like
interesting.
purple is associated with death, but I think the point of the book is like that in design and in filmmaking, you can associate a color with a theme and that and create that vibe and that for that story. And so,
I like that.
but whenever I see purple, I'm like, oh no, someone's gonna die.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Edgar Rosa, how are you, my friend?
I am good. Sorry, there's a truck that just went by. I'm doing good, man.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the industry picks up a bit. But fortunately, it seems like things are starting to get busy. So I'm hoping for a busy like summer and fall.
Yeah. Well, you'll be working on that Mahoney movie in the summer.
Yeah, yeah. Hello
Yeah.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So got first May till end of July, we'll be in New Mexico. So excited to be back in New Mexico. It's a really beautiful place.
Yeah. You shoot a lot out there because of the tax breaks?
This will be my second film there. But it is an attractive place because of the incentive and just like it's like the West Coast's biggest crew base outside of LA.
Oh, West Coast. Okay, because
Yeah,
Atlanta's East Coast. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Ah, that's where everybody went.
yeah. Yeah, well, because San Francisco got too expensive, and San Diego's cool, but it's not like it's not as bustling. And I think they just were able to like kind of take, and Vegas is madness.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think that it kind of made sense for it to be something like an Albuquerque to kind of be like next up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I guess Breaking Bad kind of like dipped their toe in
Oh
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Better Call Saul and Oppenheimer
Yeah.
now, and like all of
Yeah. Yeah. So what's
them. The
your take?
Wile E. Coyote movie too.
Oh, the one that we'll never get to see.
I hope we get to.
The word is it's great, that it's super fun, like Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, I can't wait. I loved Roger Rabbit. Roger
I,
Rabbit was iconic.
it is iconic and it's like technologically groundbreaking. It
Huge.
and it's just a great movie. But like I just don't understand the business decision behind was like an $80 million movie and just scrapping it. That
Yeah,
it's worth more as a write-off than it is as a movie. That's where
I
we're at.
hate it. I hate
That's
that.
where we're at. So what's your take on what's happening right now in the industry? Is it like things are stopped because the anticipation of a strike?
I think that the purse strings are tighter. because of that. I think that there's a lot of people that I've been talking to who like want to spend money, who are excited to spend money, who feel like money is just kind of like right on the other side of the fence. But it's a combination of like you got to have the perfect cocktail of talent and timing and story. And I don't think that there's going to be a strike. I think that it would be really bad if there's a strike, and I think that there is a lot of fun and exciting opportunity that pays well and treats people fairly. And I think that unfortunately, I think that we're gonna have to wait until like July 31st, right, for the official
Yeah.
word. But I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen.
So it's not about like post strike, like things are more expensive, and on top of that, the consolidation of like studios and everyone making less stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, the unfortunate thing is that it is going to be more expensive after July 31st. I think that again, with the assumption that general negotiations will become agreed upon, ideally, for the unions, like rates will go up or fringes will go up, something will go up. Um, but compared to like everything that's kind of relatively nominal, and I think that it's more um and SAG rates will go up after June 30th. But I think that it's just like I don't know what is keeping people from wanting to spend money. It's kind of like the thing that was going on during last year's strikes where like actors want to be working, crew wants to be working, they just don't they want to be working for a fair amount of wages. And I don't know, I think that the industry just has to determine what that is.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Actors and crew want to be working. It's like you said, the people holding the purse strings.
Yeah.
They like. Do you think that the market is still there? You're living in the indie world right now, right?
Hmm.
Mostly,
Yeah.
especially when you do features. It are they buying as much? Are they buying those features for as much? Like, wait, let me ask you this: you just won two big awards, right, at South by
Yeah.
Southwest? Like the
Yeah.
two big ones for your
Yeah.
film. Bob Trevino Likes It. You'd think there'd be a big sale somewhere connected to that. What's going on with that movie?
Well, I can't say anything officially, of course, but uh, from my perspective, and again, this is my first time going through this whole process, so it's been an incredible learning experience. Uh, the short answer is like uh, soon, hopefully, we'll have some news about the Bob Trevino sale. Um, but it seems like the market is still alive. Again, are very fortunate to have UTA as our sales agent, and Myriad. They're kind of co-repping us, and so it's been really interesting to kind of see how it all goes. But I think that the indie there is still an appetite. Again, it isn't like crazy. We don't have a ton of like distributors buying like multiple films over the course of a year. It's like definitely shrunk down. Um, but I'd say it's still very much alive.
Okay, well that's good. I like the hope.
Yeah.
Fill us
Yeah.
all with hope.
Oh, it is. Like I think that I think that it's all about like finding the right story that people want to hear, and then also like talking to it's like the whole like setup. You got to talk to them for months, and then you got to like be strategic about like sharing photos and then news and like letterbox screen. It's a whole thing.
You talking
It's
about
a, it's
like
a
when
job in itself.
you talking about when you're selling a film?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like in this like after the movie is made, the this whole like dealing with sales agents and kind of delivery and all of it's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole other world that is a part of like, being a producer, right? But it's just not the part they definitely don't teach you that in film school, right?
Right, right. I mean,
uh,
you get like you get a start, but it's just like it is massive.
right, right.
massive. I mean, and I'm in the indie world. Like, I can't imagine what like a studio. Just, I mean, and again, they've got processes and people and everything in place, but
Yeah.
it's enlightening.
Well, we'll start off with a congrats on that. Just the fact that you're going through it is means that you are at a certain level with a
Yeah,
special
thank you.
film. Yeah. So
I'm
congratulations.
excited for everyone to see it.
Yeah. I'm excited to see it. I saw all the buzz out of South by and I read the reviews and I know Sean Mullen, one of the when
Yeah,
your
yeah.
co-producers, and I've met Tracy before, the director.
Hmm.
So yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll end with that because that's a cool like
Okay.
way to wrap all this up. It shows
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
no matter what we talk about before, no matter how hard it was before, we know that you made it.
Of course. Well, and you remember Anisha, right, from my year,
Oh yeah,
the
she's the editor.
editor? Yeah,
Yeah,
she's the editor on it.
she's amazing.
Oh, my goodness, man. Like, I would work with Anisha on everything. She is just the chillest person, and then also comes to the table as an editor with such a smart, cool, chill perspective that offers like a good. She was the perfect counterbalance for Tracy, and is just so technically savvy. I've brought her onto a ton of projects now, so it's kind of a thing.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
Someone told me I sat in a test screening a couple years ago. Felipe Mucci, do you know that name?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is he here? Is he your year?
Yeah, he was our year too. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. So it all blurs. Forgive
Of
me.
course, of course.
But it was she wasn't the editor of it, but he invited her in and he told me on the side, he was like, I invite her to every test screening and I tell everyone too, because she's just the smartest note giver you'll ever meet. So
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
you're confirming right there. Yeah.
Confirmed.
It's good to have one of those people. If they're not your actual editor, just have them in your circle to show them something you're working on is just like invaluable, right?
Absolutely. And we were, not like to immediately start into shout outs for AFI, but I mean, I owe so much to AFI putting our particular group of people together because it allowed me to have such a intimate and unique relationship with, my other 126 participant fellows. And yeah, I'm was so fortunate to be around so many amazing creative people.
Yeah, I always say like, when people ask is film school worth it? And it's like, well, you're only going to learn so much. Either you're a filmmaker or you're not, but it's the people
Right.
that you're going to meet there. It's that group, that that tribe you're going to find and then you're going to go on and make stuff with. That hopefully you find,
Hmm.
Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just don't cross paths with the right people in your year.
Right.
Maybe you do years later, or maybe you do with other years around you, but like it's still like the environment is there. It's set up for you to meet those people. You
Oh,
just
incredibly. I mean, every job that I've ever had out after AFI came from someone I met at AFI.
That's amazing.
Every single one. Like, every single one is traced back to AFI. I mean, Emerson too. Like, I have Emerson connections too, but like, 90% of my uh, professional life came after AFI, and so it's crazy.
Yeah. Wait, so let's talk about how you get to Emerson. You're
Yeah,
from Iowa, right?
I'm from Des Moines, Iowa. Yep,
And that is one of the 50 states, right?
you're funny. You're funny. Just wait, Caitlin Clark, baby. No,
Oh yeah, no,
yeah,
you're on the map, man. You're on the map.
right.
Congrats.
Yeah, no, Des Moines, Iowa. It was, good old Midwest.
No, I love it. I mean that's another thing I love about I can only speak to AFI. It's the only school I've worked at, but like the where everybody comes from. If it's the smallest percentage of people are probably from LA, right? You think like this
Hmm.
is the heart of the film industry. So it's like people like
Right.
yourself from all over the country, and then all the people from other countries, which we're at like 50% international. And it was still pretty
Oh,
high
I
when you were
love that.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We were. I mean, I don't. We might have been close then. Maybe 40% or something. It
Yeah.
was impressive.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. It just adds so much to the whole experience and to the storytelling, right? Um, so
Completely.
how does a kid from Iowa have these dreams to like work in the motion pictures?
Well, honestly, it all stems from reading. Reading first and foremost. I was a big reader growing up, a big fantasy guy, and so I excelled in English. I excelled in like those kind of general education and creative
Wait,
classes
fantasy
that
guy. Wait, what were your fantasy? What were your books?
I was a big Harry Potter
Okay.
person, Diane Duane, Wrinkle in Time. That was kind of like uh, Redwall, the Lemony Snicket.
Did you ever
What
go?
else?
Did you ever go back in time, like Dune and any of the Lord of the
You know,
Rings,
I
like
I,
old
I
school?
didn't I didn't go too far back. I mean, in like high school and stuff, I did like the required reading, which I thought was always like fascinating. But it like for my leisure, it was like, I wanted to be Harry Potter, I wanted to be like, in a fantasy world where anything was possible and you're invincible.
Yeah. Was that
Um and s-
was that to
but
escape any kind of reality? Was
Oh,
reality
for
bad?
sure.
Yeah.
It was just I had my mom was a single mom in the Midwest, and she had four kids, so that was crazy, and you
Wow.
know, typical daddy issues, which we love. But
Yeah, we do. We do. Us artists love that.
right,
It's great.
love the daddy and mommy issues. It's kind of universal from the beginning of cinema. Um, but yeah, and so like it wasn't necessarily, I think, to escape. It was more like to kind of express myself, and to be able to. I always loved like seeing how people uh experience things. It's so fascinating to like observe people and watch people react to art.
Yeah. Yeah, true. I mean, you came up to be into fantasy at your age in those years, like to read Harry Potter and then not very long after see it realized in like such a perfect form, like with
Oh
where
my
effects
gosh.
effects look real and not cheesy and like they can create the world. Like you grew up in the best time.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Well, and it's like, I saw the turn of the century. I mean, I watched a lot of movies before, 2000, but like the in the, whatever 10 years from 1995 or 1996 to like 2006. I mean, there was just like an incredible transformation of like technology. I mean, it
Yeah.
was insane. It was insane. I mean, obviously you got the big dogs like James Cameron and the Wachowskis, and Nolan and all of those guys. But I mean, across the industry, it was just like it was insane. And then the iPhone in development, all of that transition from like, I don't know, it was just so fascinating.
Yeah. So if books was your in, was the first thing that you attempted, was it writing?
Theater,
Theater.
theater. So
Oh,
I was a theater
whoa.
kid, and I played instruments and I sang as well. I was kind of Renaissance,
Musical
all
theater. You were musical theater.
musical theater. Yeah, I was
Wow.
a very very big musical theater guy.
Okay.
Um, and
What
yeah, so I
instrument?
did
What instrument did you play?
trumpet. I was second chair.
I played trumpet. I played
It's the
trumpet.
best. It's the best. It's the
Junior high
best.
and high school, 6 years. I played jazz. I played one ensemble, marching band. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
is
was. I did it for 4 years,
right
or
on.
4 or 5 years. But yeah, I love the trumpet. It's one of those things where that's an instrument I'm going to come back to. It's like in the life plan.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
love it.
you will. I recently came back to it in that I bought a pocket trumpet, which is like a little small one, just to have something. But the
Right.
problem is if when you lose your lip and then you pick it up again, you suck. You suck so bad.
It's
And you
gonna
have
be
to
yeah. It's
have
gonna take forever.
yeah, well, and you have to have a quiet place to or a soundproof place to practice, right? Because I remember I was practicing in my apartment, and Yeah, I sound terrible, and then my neighbors below me are just like pounding on their ceiling, just yelling, "You suck!" So
You
not
just
really
gotta just
motivated.
do it at AFI. That's that,
That's what I got to do.
that's the best.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely get back
Right
to that.
next to the Bill Dill Theater, right? Like right there.
There used to be a grand piano in the lobby of the main building when you walked
Hmm.
in. I don't know if it was there when you were there,
I don't know. I don't remember.
but it was just, I don't know why. We're like not a music school, but there was a grand piano. And every so
It's
often
like
there
the
would be a,
signifier.
I know, it's just
Art
like,
school.
yeah, exactly. Every so often there would be a fellow that knew how to play, and you'd walk in the morning and they're just like playing some, some beautiful,
Tune.
beautiful classical music. And you're like, oh, I like this. This is great. It's a great way to start the day.
That's incredible. But yeah, so I did musical theater and did that forever, like age 5 till I graduated high school. So it was like it's the longest outside of now film. Like I loved it. It was what I would do every evening after school, community theater. I was like vice president of the drama troupe. I was like
Wow.
huge theater, musical theater guy, and then like the catalyst was uh my English teacher in like ninth grade. So yeah, my freshman year of high school, he had an assignment to like for us to either write a book report or do a movie review, and I at that time my favorite movie had been Gladiator, and I was like so excited at the opportunity to do homework on Gladiator. And it was, I just like, I went in, I just really like took it to heart and spent like a whole weekend, watching it over and over and like writing down time code and like going back. And I wrote the best book report I ever had done on, or movie review. And after that, he said, "Hey, like, are you interested in making movies? Like, you really, did your homework." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I've always liked movies, but I think I'm going to be a writer or do something in math, like whatever." At that time, I was interested in being an architect. In freshman year, I didn't know, didn't know shit about shit. Um, but
Wait, but it wasn't, you weren't like, I'm going to be an actor with all that musical theater, and
no,
you always knew it was a hobby.
I knew it was a hobby. I
Yeah.
knew it was going to be a hobby, but I thought that maybe I would do something in the theater. Like I thought maybe like I would be a part of like a producer. I mean, I kind of always knew I was going to be doing something in the organizational
Hmm.
realm, um, behind the scenes sort of something. But I didn't, that was kind of as formed as it had gotten. And I just I hadn't like made that connection to like a future and money. It was more like, oh, this is a fun hobby that I can do. And if I could make money, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But then when I got introduced to film, so that English teacher walked me over to like the communications department at my high school and introduced me to like the film and media professor teacher, and I signed up and started taking film classes the next year. And
Wow.
then like and just everything exploded. My entire life exploded and changed at that moment. I quit band, I quit all sports. I like reorganized my entire life at like 16 to go full throttle into at that time radio and film. I was a radio DJ for a while too, but I it was just like it consumed me, and it was just like this is so exciting and interesting.
Yeah. And it was the analyzing and the studying of it, or were there some movies, some like touchstone movies that really like lit you up?
Yeah, oh, tons. So I think that the like City of God is still my favorite film. That film like really changed my life because my family's from Brazil, and I had gone and visited Brazil very soon, very like recently from when I saw that film, and I like recognized some of the locations. I like knew I had been in those places. And so it was so unique to see it transformed and highlighted and transformed and to hear the story. I was just like obsessed. And then Gladiator, The Matrix was a huge inspiration for me. Tree of Life, all of Quentin Tarantino's films were a huge inspiration. Um,
You had good
Funny
taste.
Games.
Oh
Thank
wow,
you.
dark stuff.
Dark. Yeah, I really
Radical.
loved like dark concepts, psychological thrillers. I wanted to tell like stuff that makes you uncomfortable or think.
Were you a dark kid?
Not really. No, I
Oh,
was like very, bright and bubbly.
yeah. Huh. You just had a more mature taste. Yeah, you're
Yeah, exactly.
not afraid
And
of the
and
dark
I
side.
right. And I mean I I was very fortunate to like be able to see a lot of stuff and be like exposed to a lot of like different types of cinema and different types of like stories. I mean, I went and saw a lot of, plays and musical theater too. So, it was, I guess, like just trying to stay well rounded, and that's kind of where my interests kind of lie.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best kind of filmmakers and also best like producers have these very diverse backgrounds and interests. And so it's cool to hear. It makes sense that you're so good because of all the different things. And you said you were a DJ also, which
Yeah,
I totally get because you have such a great voice and you
thank
enunciate
you.
so well. So yeah, you're which, look, if producing is anything, it's about communicating. And
Right.
that's like the basics of communication is how you speak.
Oh, absolutely. And that was one of the really interesting things about being a DJ is like, knowing that you are communicating to a large amount of people that you cannot see, but you have to kind of like still play this character and play a role that is like that you're good with. And I'm like, it was very interesting. I would love to do it again.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. You should. Wait, did you have a character, a DJ character name?
My DJ character was DJ Mr. Ed. And so I was just kind of like, and I had a recurring show from like sophomore year to my senior year called Afternoon Delight, where I would just play like all of like the best funk or reggae or hip hop, a little bit of rock music in the afternoon a couple times a week.
Everything about that is awesome. I love the
It
afternoon
was
delight
it was a blast. It was a blast. I mean, I
title.
probably had like 10 listeners, but it was still cool.
But that's also the great thing about being a DJ is you don't know. You just assume
Right.
you assume the world is listening to you, right?
Right. But like at the time I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm freaking like Jason Bentley right now, KCRW, dude."
Yeah.
And I had like I'd have bands come in, from like, my high school, like do interviews. It was cool.
Oh man, you were doing the whole thing. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
I really it was a good time. It was a really good time.
We're gonna get you back into that. All right, so you're like, this is what I want to do. But did you know what the different things in film were, or you just like, I want to be associated with that?
I first was like, I know I need to be associated with that. I still was kind of the mindset that like, something in like the organizational or creative, or, organizational or like financial part of like making movies was going to be my strong suit. My mom was a financial advisor. We grew up in like the Google Calendar and like Excel spreadsheet world with because of her job and because like that's we had a Dell family computer. It was like all that all the way from when we grew up. So I knew that that was going to be part of it, but yeah, and so I kind of just like tried everything. I did the DJ thing, I did the music video thing, short films, TV, recorded shows, dances for my sisters and stuff, and musical live performances. And I loved kind of tapping into like each of the different things, but I knew that I needed to in order to understand at least generally what everyone did and its impact on like the overall picture. But I kind of always knew that I was going to be a producer. It just took me a couple years of trying everything. I think that if I wasn't a producer, I really loved editing. Like editing was like a real passion, but I like being around other people so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, you're not around anyone when you're editing, maybe one person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly. And I needed to be a little bit more social.
Yeah. I always say though, editing is the best like baseline, fundamental, like learn the basics of storytelling in the visual form, right?
Oh my
That's
gosh, yes.
it's the best. If you want to be a director, learn editing. If you want to be a producer, learn editing. You want to be an actor, look at editing. That's where performances are
Oh,
built, you know?
oh my gosh, I know. And it's like going frame by frame. Oh,
Yeah.
there, that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you get good at editing, it's like we were talking about Anisha. Like I wish more producers would have studied it because it's like that's where you
Same.
save a movie. And if you know what is possible in editing, which so much is possible, you can do so much.
Well, and I feel like AFI should teach a producing and editing class,
Yes.
separate from the directors. Like I think, obviously the directors will be involved. It's not about the director's involvement because you already have established that relationship. But there absolutely needs to be like, a independent eye from the director who is able to look at the story holistically, knowing everything that was shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of like removed, like the emotional,
Right.
personal, removing that part, which a director usually brings to it, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
impartial. Yeah.
Right. Or as impartial as you can be.
Yeah, exactly. It's still your project, but good luck prying the directors away from that. Uh
Right.
so why Emerson? Why'd you go there?
There were two gals that were in my class a couple years ahead of me, and I had massive crushes on them, so I wanted to like know everything that they were doing.
Funny how
And
influential that can be.
right,
Right.
it's incredibly. And so they were just graduating or about to graduate, and had both applied to Emerson and left a bunch of like swag out on the like main table. And so I, was just looking at it and then, whatever, just remembered it, took it home, probably like lost it the next week. But then, fast forward 2 years when I'm applying, and the main thing for me was I wanted to make sure that if I was going to spend all this money to go to film school, and film school is not cheap, um, I wanted to make sure that I could get a camera or get on set my freshman year.
Mm.
And I felt like it was most important for me to have access to equipment and access to extracurricular activities that could benefit my career. And so all the film schools that required like a 6 month, period before you could rent equipment, or a year or two or even three, I was like, get out of here. Like, not even. Emerson was one of only like four schools or five schools that allowed you to rent equipment your freshman year, and I still think to this day is the best decision that they made and the best decision that I made for my career.
That's great. I didn't know that about Emerson, and that's honestly that's such a great reason to factor into that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. It's like Emerson, Florida State, um like Temple, and Amherst and Hampshire. Literally in
Yeah.
the entire of all of the films film schools that list film as a major, those are the only five that uh, you can actually rent a camera your first day.
That's crazy because you're like USC, like how expensive
Nope.
it is. You can't you can't touch the cameras in the film school.
Or
Wow.
yeah, or at least like, geez, 15 years ago, like you couldn't. So I don't know if it changed, but I just I think that was just that was like just really shocking for me
So
that it
did
was
you when you started,
Yeah,
did you start grabbing the cameras and making stuff?
immediately. Like
Nice.
I would I rented a camera probably like half of the freshman load-in week. I forgot what it's called, but orientation week. Like
Yeah.
I would rent a camera as often as I can, just to, like, take photos or take videos. I mean, there was like tons of parties and like
Mhm.
dances and organized things. And so like after my mom left, I was like, let me just like film some shit just to get, because then I have something and be like, hey, I shot this thing. Like, would you be down to edit it? Like, and
Yeah.
that's, I started very early just trying to like make some shit while I was there.
Yeah. It's a great way to connect with people too, through work, right?
Exactly. And we had like themed floors like on our dorm. And so I was on like the film floor.
Yeah.
And so we all were kind of like trying to get into, the different organizations, the equipment, because everyone on that floor also knew exactly that you could rent equipment. It was so important to so many people, and I was like, this is proof. People just want to have access to equipment so that they can start messing around, because you
Yeah.
got to mess around. You got to make like so many bad things before you can make a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's where so much of the education is, right? Just the stuff you're
Right.
doing on your own. And you now, I mean, probably you saying you like the parties and the dances and all that, you probably looking back, you have stuff like this footage of these events, kind of a time capsule of your time at school that or probably like everyone loves that you captured it, right? All your classmates.
Oh, exactly, exactly. Well, and like, social media played such a big role in that too, because my freshman year of college was Facebook year two. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that was, I mean, that's how we communicated with each other when we left the social setting and then went back to our room. It was like you had, an hour or two of more socializing on Facebook, and that was just part of like how our social life was structured.
Yeah.
So it's like we have like the the videographed capsule, but then we also have like the Skype / Facebook capsule,
Hmm.
which is so interesting.
Do you remember anything from the actual curriculum at Emerson or like a light bulb moment about storytelling, about filmmaking,
Mhm.
or any professor that pulled you aside and said, "Don't do it, kid. Don't do it."
I mean, there were there were plenty of people that warned us along the way, and I mean, I had to actually Nathaniel Hansen, and was my business and mass media teacher. I think my sophomore year, and one of the things that he taught was like Kickstarter fundraising as part of his curriculum, and I just really like took to use the idea of using social media to like raise money, and I thought it was like fascinating. And at the same time, I was taking like an economics course with Professor Nahim, and he like had was talking about capitalism, and I was like, this is like such a weird, like interesting immersion that is like now such a big part of what I saw my life and career being in, like, at that time it was like transmedia, mass media. Um, and so that was like, yeah, I think Nathaniel Hansen's The Art of Business and Mass Media or something was the name of the course. I owe a lot of my early producing ability to that class.
Yeah. Yeah. What an exciting time when, like, you said Facebook year two and then Kickstarters starting off. It's like there was so much, opportunity right there. I'm sure other people, the established people, were scared. It's like you think of
Hmm.
now with AI and everyone's scared. It's like, these are tools. Like we survive these things and we thrive on them. Fingers
Right.
crossed with AI. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, right. Are you sure? Am I speaking to the real Schwartzy, or is this AI Schwartzy?
Oh no, the real Schwartzy died 10 years ago. AI Schwartzy's been
Right,
running.
right, right, right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right, 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 right.
AI
Okay,
Schwartzy's
cool.
much better. much like lawsuits with AI Schwartz. Uh,
Sure, of course. Love
so
that.
you go through 4 years of Emerson. You go, aren't you like, hey, I did it. I'm a filmmaker now. I'm a producer. Oh no, wait, I'm not done. I need 2 years of graduate school of AFI
Right. So,
and right into it, like no downtime.
yeah, no downtime, no downtime. So the real is I spent so much time focusing on extracurricular activities that I wasn't focusing enough time on like on like the curriculum. And
Mm.
the reason why I actually went to Emerson for only 3 years, not 4 years. I went in with some additional credits. So I didn't have to take, I was able to kind of like dive right into my major courses, which was incredibly beneficial. But effectively, like I finished my major at the end of my junior year. I would have stayed another year, but I was only there on an honors scholarship. And, I thought it was really interesting reading these philosophers, but I knew that like academia was not going to be something that I did professionally. And
Mm.
so it just continued to like take a backseat uh, for my like formal education. And so, I got a couple B's in there, I got a C or two, and, honors doesn't vibe with that. So yeah, and so like I had to make the tough decision of either do I pay full price for another year where I'm just essentially like getting I would have already finished my major and I was just going to do like a minor, and pay full price for a minor that I may or may not use, but I just didn't have that, I wasn't sure if that was the right call. And my mom had gone to graduate school, and it was like a really important moment growing up to like see her graduate from graduate school. It was like a really, really special moment. And so she had always kind of been like, go to grad school, go to grad school, go to grad school. And so when all of this honors situation started to happen and fall apart, I I was like, hey, here's the deal. I'll leave Emerson. I'll graduate Emerson in 3 years, and I'll go right to grad school and just like knock it out of the park. Because she couldn't really like she was upset for sure, that I was getting a couple B's and a couple C's, but ultimately like she saw that I was also excelling. Like I had a really impressive internship. One of my films won like the film festival at Emerson. And
Oh,
so like she saw that I was excelling everywhere except for the classroom.
yeah.
And it's not like I was doing horribly. Like I still left with like a 3.7, a 3.8. Like it wasn't bad. It was just not honors. And
Yeah.
so she was like, okay, well, he was able to finish in 3 years, got kicked out of honors. And so the bargain I made is like I'll go right to AFI. And really, the grad school decision was like, New York, Columbia, Princeton, which was like probably not. Um, uh, Dodge,
Oh, Chapman.
Chapman, thank you. UCLA, USC, and AFI. It was like those 6 or 7, right? And um, I applied AFI early decision because I knew that, or whatever, like the early, application, because I knew that that was number one. And I was like,
Hmm.
you got to go for the stars. And I got an interview and I was like, holy shit. And in my interview with Betsy and then Neil, it was Betsy in the first one, and then Neil for the second one.
Uh-huh.
All I talked about was social media, Google Glass, and how producers needed to be better at um, working with production designers. That
Wow.
was my pitch.
Wow.
That was my pitch.
Then I bet they never hear that. Wow.
Well, because I just like I had just leaving Emerson, I'd done a lot of projects because as soon as I found out that I wanted to be a producer, I started producing everything at Emerson, and anything I could get my hands on. I was like, let me produce it, let me cast it, let me do all of the producing things. And that really like it all made sense. It all made sense. And I was like, if Google, and I was really hot on Google Glass then because they had announced that they were doing their, thing. I was like, if Google Glass really is going to be the thing that they say it is, we all need to be wearing it right now because we are going to become such better filmmakers if we're able to get people this information this quick.
Yeah. Everything you're saying makes sense. Google Glass didn't work.
I know. It was so sad. I was really sad.
Wait, were you at AFI when we got the Google Glass, the donation of you were?
Oh yeah.
Did you get it?
Oh yeah.
I bet you were fighting to get it. Huh?
Oh, I was ready. And I have like, I mean, I still have like location scouting photos from my Google Glass from, cycles, going through and being like, I was such a nerd. I was such a nerd, but it was perfect.
It's so funny. It was such a blip. It like came and went. And if you mention it now, nobody knows what you're talking about, right?
Right.
Then you go, well, it was before the Apple Vision, whatever that is,
Pro. Yeah.
Vision Pro
Which
thing.
I've heard is really cool. So I'm excited for the evolution of it, but it's like you needed a Google Glass to like live and die in order to get to
For sure. Yeah.
Apple Vision.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about AFI. You go to AFI, like, and that's
Mhm.
was AFI your number one choice because of you get to make movies right away?
AFI was my number one choice because of like the cachet, I think one of being number one, and the producing, having the ability to, I wanted to learn budgeting and scheduling. I wasn't able to take like the advanced courses at Emerson that taught you budgeting and scheduling because I graduated early and they were really popular classes. And
Mm.
so AFI, when I was like, kind of doing my research about AFI, they said, oh, budgeting, scheduling, to teach a line producing, studio system, kind of all of it said, they said all the things that I wanted to do. And, when I did the campus visit, I was like, oh, this is like cool and funky and also like a little folksy, like up on the mountain. And it just, and I toured all the schools. I toured literally all of them, and it just was the most. It made the most sense, and I am so glad that I went to AFI.
So are we. We're glad you went to AFI. Let's talk about like, your you first get to AFI and like we said, you're surrounded by all these people from everywhere. I mean, you went to Emerson, that's a big school. There's something
Mhm.
different about AFI. Average age is 27, right? People come sometimes with like actual real life work experience and then are going to grad school. You're coming straight from undergrad. So you were probably what, 20, 21?
I was 21. Yeah.
Oh, so you're young. Yeah, you were young.
It
Did you
was
feel
Selena, Corey, and I were the babies.
wow.
Corey Warner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Selena Ringel.
hmm
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were all 21 and we were the babies. I think Selena was like a month older than me and Corey's like a month younger than me. It's like something like that.
Yeah. Did you feel young?
Yes.
Did you have that imposter syndrome thing people talk about?
Oh yeah. Definitely. Like immediately I had the imposter syndrome and I would say even through my entire first year, there was kind of like an imposter syndrome and it's I had never been in an environment like AFI. I'd never been in a conservatory. I mean, Emerson within the film community like was, tight, but I mean, that's still like 3,000 students,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
At AFI, it's like, you're with family.
You're with family and yeah, you can't hide.
Right.
You
Right.
can't,
It's
you
like
can't,
you can't, being lazy, showing up late. It's like, there's immediate stakeholders, there's immediate people that are like relying on you. And
yeah.
also, I mean, like, it I think that it like bred a culture of like hustle that was like good. I mean, it was always in me, but like, I really spent all of my time at AFI or with AFI people, or, you know, trying to succeed and trying to make connections and trying to like understand how to make a life for myself, because I'm living off of the AFI alone, so I have a limited amount of income. There's not really much to, you know stuff to do for cheap.
Right.
And so I'm spending my Friday nights and Saturday mornings at AFI to do the thing. And then my social time is with AFI people too. And so it was like, it was a family.
Yeah. Yeah. You also don't get a lot of free time. You're like
Right.
constantly, you're either in classes or you're on set, right?
Right.
Like, every so often you might get a one weekend off, but it is
Exactly.
go, go, go. Yeah. It is like, yeah, it is that grind culture.
Yeah,
Um,
especially during cycle season. I mean, cycle
oh,
season was crazy. It's every weekend for like 4 months.
yeah.
It was crazy.
Which is like exhausting, but it's also like, it's like anything, like athletes or the 10,000 hours, right? It's like you get to a
Right.
point where it just becomes second nature, right? It's probably very scary at first. Like being on an AFI set feels like you're on a motion picture set, right? You
Very
have
much so.
20 to 50 crew members and actors and production designers and sets, and you're doing everything by the book with like LA, like film LA permits and SAG
Hmm.
contracts and all that kind of stuff. Like it makes you step up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really was like an incredible step up and immediate. It was like after boot camp, I I got the assignment. I understood what was going to be required of me, and I think that's one of the things that AFI did really well. And I can't remember if it was like Bill Block or who said it in one of the opening seminars that we did, but it was like they said, it's going to take over your life, and if you want to succeed here, you need to understand that AFI is your life, and
Yeah.
if you don't want it to be, then get out. Effectively.
Right. Right. No, it's true. And it's like, well, you're also you're spending a lot of money.
A
You
lot of
might
money.
you might as well like get the most of it. It always boggles my mind when there's like the fellow that like kind of just half-asses it or disappears halfway through and they're just not showing up, and you're bringing in like these fancy filmmaker guests in an intimate class and they just don't show up, and you're like, why did you want to come here? Was it to
Right.
get equipment like back in your Emerson days? Like you can do something on your
Do that
phone
for
now.
much cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So was there well, I know there was, but what was it for you? Like one of those like learning moments, let's just call it a mistake you made that you learned a lot from in that first year, in those cycles, or maybe not in cycles, but in that first year.
Um,
Could have been
there are
like, or just
two.
a bad collaboration or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to call anyone out
No, we
specifically,
don't have to name
but
names.
there was right, right, right. There was a director that I worked with like pretty early on. It was actually my cycle one, and I wasn't prepared for someone who I felt like was not like super willing to collaborate. And so very early on, I had to like kind of, you like level up my game. I kind of had to like be like uh, an adult. I needed to be like kind of an elevated version of myself, a more organized and old soul smart version of myself to help resolve like creative conflict. And it was a completely new step for me because up to that point I had been mostly like a logistical person or like, kind of adjacent to like the creative people around a film. And now I was like the lead creative producer as well. And I, I like tried to kind of assert myself in a situation with this director because he was making the writer cry, and it was like we were all supposed to be like kind of collaborating and figuring it out. Like it wasn't supposed to be like a bad, a negative or bad situation. And I think that I'm okay with the decision I made to like stand up for myself and stand up for the writer, but ultimately it drove like a wedge deeper into their relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately like, it resulted in her leaving the project, which is like, unfortunate for, a cycle one.
Yeah.
Um and so, I look back to that and I, maybe I should have like let it kind of handle itself, but I, just kind of like went against like my instinct. So I trust my instinct, and I don't know, maybe it was for the better, but I think that it was just like the lesson learned was just that like there are some people that aren't really willing to like budge from how they see things happen creatively, even if it's perceived as a bad idea by other people.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about, communication is like one of the skills of a producer. And I think one of the best ways people can communicate is learning how to adapt their communication. Everybody just thinks like that the way they communicate is the proper way to communicate. But
Right.
truly the best communicators like adapt to the person they're dealing with or the situation they're dealing with, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think, the best producers learn that or they learn how to fake that. And other producers just continue on with their bullheaded communication. Um, can you talk about that? What have you learned about that? Because I feel like that story kind of goes to that, right? Like it's not about communication, but it was like kind of how you dealt with that person and that situation, and you know, learning from that. Would you do it differently, or maybe you do the exact same thing? Because it sounds like you just from what I've heard, sounds like you did the right thing and standing up for yourself and for a writer.
I think that yeah, I don't think that I would have done it any differently. I think that what I've learned is that sometimes difficult conversations have to be had, and I want to make sure that I'm always able to have a difficult conversation. And that's one of the things that like I've continued to learn, has continued to be reaffirmed in my career, is that there's always going to be a difficult conversation. There's always going to be people that are looking to a leader or looking for someone to start, looking for someone to like guide them. And I want to make sure that I'm like molding myself into a good leader.
That's so well said. And you're making me think like there should be a class that's called like the difficult conversation and how to have it, right?
Right. I mean,
That is
kind of.
filmmaking, right? That is producing. It's a series of difficult conversations.
Right. That should be like the whole theme of year one of AFI. Just the conversation. It's difficult. Dot 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 dot.
Oh, that's good. Talk about I love hearing people's first reactions to the other thing that happens in first year, which is narrative workshop and learning, how to take critique. For many people, it's their first time going through that, and they don't necessarily always react well to it. How did you deal with it? How did you react to it the first time?
Well, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to hear your classmates and your friends rip apart your work, and especially when you put so much time and energy and love into it. I was still kind of like bright eyed and bushy tailed, and I kind of loved it. had never been in that sort of open forum of communication, on the receiving end, and it felt very special. It felt like, yeah, I mean, it felt special. Like I knew, some of the stuff I knew that I needed to do better, and other things I like would have defended, for sure. But it, yeah, I just felt very fortunate. It was like very special, and it felt very surreal to be like to be able to share the creative back and forth with that many people who I respected. Because by the time that narrative workshop happens, you've either like, unless you're like the first one, right, or the second one, maybe, like, you you have an opportunity to, like, kind of see the format, through guidance of through guidance of the people at AFI to help us. And so it was really special to be there and to share that moment with people, and hope and try to be constructive, and receive, and not only to be constructive, but to like receive constructively, because it's like, some things you can change and other things you can't. It's all about, trying to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a great, I think it's such an important thing that we do, and it teaches you how to take it for sure. Because you have no other choice. You have to be quiet and just listen.
Right, right,
um,
exactly.
yeah, which you never, in the rest of your life, you'll never have to do. But then you also like how to give it, and how to give it critically, and how to give it like to critique the things that can be controlled, right?
Right.
I don't know.
And I'm so grateful that AFI did that, because like I would have benefited so much from that at Emerson,
Yeah.
at that sort of discourse. And I think that it needs to be in both places, because it's just it taught me how to communicate about movies.
Yeah, and it's a skill that you'll use the rest of your career, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you'll always be talking
Exactly.
about scripts and cuts and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Um, all right,
Breaking
so
it down.
we're like at an hour now, so I'm gonna like we're gonna pump the gas right now. We're gonna floor
Okay.
it, because I do like, this is all about like supposed to be called after film school, so it's always
Right.
like
Oops.
what was your first job after film school, and what was the thing at film school? Because you said most of your things, that jobs that you've gotten, you can credit towards AFI and those relationships. What was that relationship, and what was that first job?
The first job I had was working as a production coordinator for a YouTube series for All Deaf Digital. And I had been hired by two AFI producers who graduated the year above me, Harris Sherman and James Laurie.
Yeah. Oh,
And
cool.
so I had met them through, other AFI people. They were close to Christine Melton and a couple other people from my year, from like the kind of the Las Vegas film scene, Rachel Alterman, that whole gang.
Yeah.
And so I had already been communicating with them about, you know, prior to graduating AFI, I was like, I knew that they were in the YouTube, like MCN, multi-channel network space, and I was really interested in that because I was still, Google Glass guy. um,
Still.
and yeah, and so I was like, okay, well, maybe this can like translate into some work. And then fortunately, they had a job for a production coordinator on one of their shows, and that just slowly turned into I was just there every week, and they always had something new to give me. And what I think was my most sellable quality is that I was just really good at the numbers. I was really good at budgeting, I was really good at scheduling, and I was really good at like researching what I needed to in order to get there
Yeah.
and
What do you like?
stay on time and under budget.
It's such a unique gift to find those people that are a good at that part, right? And enjoy it.
I know I'm one of the
What do you enjoy
weirdos.
about that?
Um,
Because there is creativity within that.
Oh my gosh, it's an incredibly creative role uh, that is definitely undervalued, and every line producer should make more money putting that into the universe. Uh, but no, the I think that the like you said, it's creative in its own way, and it's a sort of negotiation that is, you know, that has a line. You know, there is a minimum wage, there is a minimum number of hour, you know, a maximum number of hours you can work in a day. There are like, you know, whatever assumed and agreed upon limitations, but there is a whole, like, effectively it's like a sandbox. And like what I like to do is I like to build the sandbox, ideally the biggest sandbox that I can, and so that a director and a team and the creative people can like make their vision. I love being able to make other people's vision you know, become a reality. I love being able to tell stories and tell other people's stories, especially stories that I'm aligned with.
Hmm.
And I love being able to pay people. I love being able to like hire my friends and say, hey, like, I can pay you for your art. I love that transaction of, I think you are making something valuable. I want to pay you for that. And it's just, it's like so ingrained. And I don't know if it's like my mom, I don't know if it's like, you know, just the you know, something inside of me that like, you know, that is this way, but I love being able to like pay people for their art.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I mean, I bet part of it is the empathy of like, you know, you have this drive to be an artist, and you know, you only believe that you're doing it for real when you get paid to do it. So
Right.
now you're in that role, you're being paid to do it, and to give that gift back is so rewarding, you know, and to do it with people that you trust and you believe in is the ultimate. It's the ultimate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've been so fortunate.
So and then you've been doing it forever and like in all the different forms, like you know, coordinator, obviously you just said that, UPM, line producer,
Hmm.
producer, the big capital P producer.
Yeah, exactly. Capital P. Bob
And that's
Trevino was the first one.
that's the first one, huh? That's the first
Yeah.
feature.
First capital P producer. So yeah, I mean, and honestly, like, in 2015, so right after AFI, 2015 to 2016, I started making movies. You know, the 200,000 to 400,000, like, you know, friends and family sort of like movies. And you know, Tommy, one of my first movies was with Tommy, and you know, and then slowly it's like you got the day job to pay the bills, and then you got the movie to, you know, heal the soul. And so I was just trying to like kind of you know, balance both as
Wait, did
much
you
as
have
I
a day
could.
job? You had a day job?
I worked, you know, pretty regularly at the YouTube channel.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, you know, it was like 5 days a week. It wasn't staff,
Yeah.
but it was like, you know,
If you showed up between producing gigs,
permalance. Yeah,
yeah, they gave you work. Cool.
right.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like balanced both. And then, you know, in 2017, I really like, or 2018, I kind of went freelance, and it was scary
Hmm.
and exciting, you know, and then I just freelanced and made, you know, made movies when I could, did commercials and BuzzFeed and that whole world, you know,
Yeah.
when I could. And I did freelance like I was doing really well and loved it, you know, up until the pandemic, you know. And I think that, you know, it's interesting to kind of like think of like the what if, you know, if the pandemic hadn't happened, you know, what that trajectory would have looked like. But I got, you know, I was really fortunate. You know, I was on several movies like up until the pandemic, and that, you know, it was kind of heading in that direction anyway. And, you know, I
Mhm.
took the pandemic year off to, you know, work in advertising because that was like what was paying and
Yeah.
what people were still doing. And then, you know, as soon as that kind of pandemic year started to slow down, you know, 2021, I went right back into movies and basically have been on like almost exclusively movies since 2021.
That's great. That's great, man.
You know, I
Yeah.
love being an indie film. It's a blast.
What's your advice then for people like coming out? Like I hear the recent graduates always asking me, they're like feel desperate to just find a job, any kind of like assistant job. But you seem to like you embrace that freelance lifestyle, right? Which a lot of them want to be the capital P producer, but they don't want to. It's the scary world of doing what you did, right?
Right.
Is the advice just like you just gotta like stay in it?
You just got to stay in it for sure. But I think that the advice that I have is, I mean, you got to read and watch as much as you can. You just always got to be reading. You always got to be watching stuff and, you know, paying attention to who is doing what and in the realm of what you want to do, coming out of film school. But I think that the like, the biggest piece of advice is that like, network. Facebook is still to this day the best hiring platform that I've seen. Better than LinkedIn, better than Staff Me Up and blah blah blah, all, entertainment partner, careers, all of that. It's Facebook is so much better because you're interacting with the people want face to face, effectively like, as face to face as you can digitally, and so like the communities of film people on Facebook are massive and work is constant. And so the advice that I always give to people out of school is go on Facebook, join every single film group that you can in your area or in the cities that you want to work, and work will find its way to Facebook. Also LinkedIn and also those other places. I wouldn't say pay for any of the premium versions of that. Just do the regular because you can get plenty of opportunities just doing the regular free version. But Facebook will give you a much wider net than LinkedIn, in my opinion.
That is so good to hear. And you are speaking the gospel. I tell people don't pay for those entertainment career type things. That same
Even
job,
just the AFI, the AFI groups are lit too, like often,
great.
with work. And so I'm like, you gotta be like, I understand if you're not a social media person, but if you're hungry for work, you gotta be on at least Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Good advice. That's good advice. So then tell us how Bob Trevino, how you get that job as the capital P producer.
Hey. Last April, or sorry, I apologize, last February, I was about to head to a movie in Atlanta. I was making a horror film for LD Entertainment, was really excited. And my business partner, Marie Rodriguez, who's wonderful, she's done a bunch of DWWs as well as a producer. She called me and said that she had just gotten an offer to be the lead producer of Bob Trevino Likes It, but she had a 3-month-old child, and so she was unable to do the movie. And she asked me if I was interested, and the timing worked out where they wanted to shoot it, last May or June, and that was right when I was finishing up the current movie that I was on. And so I was like, oh, I'll take the interview. They're probably not going to want me because of the timing. They'll probably want someone who, can dedicate more free time effectively, to developing it and everything. And I was also nervous because like I'd never led produced. I mean, the last thing that I had led produced was an AFI film, my AFI thesis.
That's
So I
wild.
had,
Yeah.
I had been very full into like the line producing game, and wasn't looking back.
Yeah.
Not out of and not out of any like lack of interest, but just that's kind of where my career took me, and I loved it. And I'm one of the weirdos. Like I loved doing budgets and schedules all day.
Yeah.
And so I took the call with Tracy and Sean, and they told me about the movie. They sent me the script. I cried like a baby. It was really beautiful. I was kind of like the perfect missing piece for our trio. Tracy is an incredible and phenomenal writer and director. Sean is the money man, is the talker, is the handshake dealer. And and I was and I was like the numbers guy and organization guy, and we like really made the perfect trio. And so immediately, the first call went really well. And then we did, like a Zoom after and a couple calls before I was officially brought on. And but like, around by, March 1st or something of last year, like I was on board Bob Trevino, and we went on the journey together.
That's great. That's great to hear. And also what you said about like the trio, right? Everybody knowing their role in it is so important, you know? And having everyone have their specialties,
Right.
cover all the bases. So what did you learn as like what was the big difference being the lead producer versus the line producer?
The big difference is that there is so much stuff that happens that is not uh that is outside the scope of actually making the movie. The making of the movie piece is so small compared to everything else, and it's the most important part. But even, at the indie level, you're lucky if you get to spend, prep, shoot, wrap. At the indie level, you're fortunate if it's like 2 or 3 months, right? If that's like, the kind of production window. But, there's this whole post period, or, there's this whole period of raising the money and the actors and the, location scouting and the budgeting and scheduling and all this prep that happens that, isn't talked about a lot. And then there's this entirely huge post period that is beautiful and interesting and so rewarding because you get to see the fruit of everything that you shot. But then it's also horrible and terrifying because you know all of the stuff that you missed,
Yes.
and you think, oh my gosh, if we just had spent one more hour, if we had spent 10 more dollars, it's like you have those
If we
conversations,
had
and it's like,
one reshoot day, but you
right? Oh my gosh, there was a whole
don't
thing. There was a whole
never
thing.
yeah.
And so like, it's and then the movie's done, and then you gotta like figure out how to show it to people, festivals and distributors and screenings and actors who want to see it, and people who have thoughts about it, and then how do you do that, and how do you like keep it close to the chest but also like show your baby, because you want to the whole point is for people to watch it, right? So
Yeah.
it's like there's so much. I mean, there's so much, but I'm so the if I didn't have my 10,000 hours before this movie, I had my 10,000 hours and doubled it during the course of this last year.
On one movie you did
On
10,000.
one movie, on
Yeah.
one movie. But I learned so much. I feel so confident now in my ability to be a lead producer. I had lots of nerves going into it, more imposter syndrome. But now on the other side of it, I know that I have what it takes, and I'm excited to put it into effect for everything that I work on moving forward.
Whether you're the lead producer or not.
Yeah, whether I'm the lead producer or a line producer. I told Tommy jokingly, I was like, the trauma that I got from Bob Trevino is going to make Hello Out There like the best movie possible. And he loved that, of course.
He's probably very happy that you had to go through it once. Now you can like relate to him more and be like give him a little more pity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because what
But
you're
I'm excited.
describing. Wait, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm really excited to be able to work with Tommy again. He's a good producer, good guy.
Yeah. Well, what you're describing though is like the life of the producer that a lot of people don't talk about, which is like you're one of the first people on it, very, usually the first person on it, and you're
Yeah.
never off of it. You'll never be done with Bob Trevino.
Nope. And I told several of my colleagues and my girlfriend and everything. I was like, when I took Bob Trevino, I didn't know, but I knew, and I was like, this film is going to change the next 10 years of my life. It's going to change the course of my career, and I you know, and watching it happen in real time.
That man, that's prescient that you knew that. Just you knew because of the story that it was there.
I knew because of the story. It was honestly, it was the first draft of the script that I read was truly, 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 truly special. And I I could just tell. When I saw everything that Tracy and Sean had started to put together and all the pieces started to come together uh, around this time last year, um, I knew that it was going to change my life.
But so that's a really quick turnaround, right? Because you got the call in February. When did you shoot?
We shot in July.
Shot in July,
Yeah,
and then post, and then you premiered at like what, last
at
month?
South by. Yeah, yeah, a month and a half ago.
That is such a quick turnaround. And then of course let's talk about like couldn't have been scripted any better, right? Like also you little spoiled brat, Edgar. Your first movie goes to a major film festival and wins the major awards there. Like, and
Crazy,
I say
right?
spoiled
Oh
brat
my
with all the
god,
love in my heart. I'm so happy for you. But
dude. I mean, I'm lucky. I was wow.
just know that this doesn't happen. This
I
doesn't happen.
know. My goodness.
But talk about like let's just talk about those little wins, right? Because
Mhm.
when you found out you got into South by, how did that feel?
Oh, I mean, it was incredible. You know, we had we'd submitted to at that point we had only submitted to Sundance and South by, and you know we had known, and the people around us, our publicists and sales agents and stuff, you know, had said that you know there's always a little bit of competition between Sundance and South by, who breaks out the next movie, and et cetera, et cetera. And you know, when we didn't get into Sundance, we were definitely disheartened, but it was okay. We know we weren't going to rest all our laurels on that. And getting into South by was incredibly special and incredibly like poignant, especially because Tracy's from the Austin area. And so to have her be able to screen, you know, her first feature in effectively like her hometown, we knew it was going to be something like really unique and interesting. And from the beginning, South by was such an incredible partner. And so it was really special. It was really special and emotional. And, you know, finding out that we were going to be in main competition too was just like wild. And, you know, I was like, you know, in competition with all these other movies,
Yeah, yeah, that's
like all,
crazy. Like these
like
ones,
what?
I know you're
All
like these are real movies. I mean, that
I know, seriously, that's like that's exactly what was going through my head, and so it was crazy. I mean, it was crazy, and then you know South by. Whew,
yeah. What was that first screening like?
oh my gosh, the premiere was so special. Was like uh you know my mom came to the premiere, so I was really happy to like have her be able to see, you know, we had a red carpet moment, we all dressed up,
Mhm.
um and I mean it was the first time that any of us had seen the movie with as many people, and you know it was a 420 seat theater, and it was, you know, damn near packed,
That's big. Wow.
and it was
Yeah.
huge. And so, you know, being able to just like hear the emotion, it's like a vibration, you know, and you know, that many people in such a tight space, and you just hear their like reaction to everything that you like, every moment that you spent hours and hours and hours and days working on. And then like, you know, the standing ovation was incredible. Like, you know, we were all crying. Um, yeah, it was really special.
Yeah. And winning the awards it must just be the cherry on top of all that. Is
Dude, it was like we had no expectations. We had no expectations. You know, you never know any of these things. And I thought, like, you know, be the producer in me, I was like, okay, well, they're going to let you know. They're going to let us know. If we won something, they're going to let us know before so we can like plan a little thing, or a talk or whatever,
Or they're going to say like, "Hey, you should stick around till the end" or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Something. And I don't know. Maybe they told Tracy and Tracy was just holding it close to the chest. Which no disrespect if that was what she did, I would do the same. But we're all sitting there, and as they're like announcing all of the awards, and there's like effectively, a third place and a second place. And when we didn't hear our name, it was like, oh, okay, well, it was a great, it was a good time, and like this is great, and this will help the movie get sold, and blah blah. And then they start describing the grand jury award, and they start with the log line of the movie, and just immediately it's just like rain showers all over, and like we took a video online, and I'm like shaking Tracy's shoulders, and she's crying, and we're crying, and then we're all walking up and stumbling up across each other, and it was perfect. And it was like the 20th, it was even more special because it was the 20th anniversary of when Tracy was last at South by.
20 years?
20 years. Yeah, 20 years ago she won an award at South by,
Wow.
and on the 20th anniversary she won again.
Wow. That's
Crazy,
so
right?
so special, man. That's congratulations. What's
Thank
your
you.
favorite memory of this whole like, this Bob Trevino journey? And there are more to come, I'm sure. Like
My favorite
was there like someone that
memory.
came up to you at the festival, a reaction to it, or maybe like Tracy or Sean, like, acknowledged what you did on it, like one of those things,
um
or maybe your mom.
I mean, have like I've had so many special moments on this movie. It's really like I can't tell you one.
Yeah.
Um One that sticks out is I convinced my mom to come to set for a couple days in Kentucky, and I was able to like have that on set moment with her where she's like has her own monitor, she's got the headphones, she's like leaning in, and it was at one of the day that she like came on set was one of the pivotal scenes of the film, the climax of two of our characters, and it was so not special to like have her be there, and like for everyone to like know that it was my mom and that I brought her to set, and that she was just like such an integral part of my growth and upbringing as a creative person, as an artist, as a producer. And so I would say that that's the highlight is having my mom on set that day.
That's beautiful. And for her to see you in that role of like, this is your
Right.
movie, you're running the set.
Yeah, and it was like it was the first. She had been, she had seen a lot of my movies, but had never come to set. Hadn't been on one of my sets since like high school. Because she's not gonna come out. And
Yeah.
the cycles and thesis. I mean, it was just too chaotic.
Yeah.
So, um, so yeah, this was the first time that she like saw me on like a big boy set. So it was kind of like, Mom, this is what I do. I get paid to do this. Isn't this crazy?
She's finally realizes, oh, you know what, this might work out. This might,
he might have something.
it might get
So it was like
maybe something.
it was so special and funny to like have her, and she also was like she's a good luck charm, because I had invited her on a previous movie that I worked on. I invited her to come to set, but because of weather, she was not able to like actually be on set. She was like in the town with me and stuff. But and that film also played at South by this year. So I was like, Mom, you might be my like, are you my lucky charm?
You know what to do. She's coming to every set. Yeah.
Every set from now on, every set, and she has her own monitor.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is this is the mom festival monitor. Don't touch it.
Don't get your bad juju on this, people. Yeah.
Right. We need
Uh,
my mom to be focused and crying.
and so manipulative.
I
All
know.
right, last thing is like, what has this done for your career? Like, are you getting calls about other movies? Are you repped as a producer yet?
Not officially. I have so I am there's a lot. I mean, this film definitely has opened up many doors, many doors, and that is exciting. Um, I hadn't really thought much about representation prior to this film, mainly because like, oh, do producers don't get repped unless they like are super big or have
Yeah.
other facets of what they do, and so it was never really like of mind, but Marie and I, my business partner and I have been approached to like, be repped, and that's exciting and interesting, and we are definitely considering it. And the best thing is like we're getting offered a lot of movies. There's a lot of phone calls about people that want to make movies with me now, and I have so many scripts that I need to read. And fortunately, I mean, again, strike depending, it looks like I'm going to be able to spend the rest of this year making movies, which is exactly what I want to be doing.
That is so cool to hear, man.
And so like I encourage, like, there are so many people that want to help tell your story, and it's really just finding the time and the heart to pursue them, because some of it you got to chase after, and some of it will come to you, and you got to have that perfect balance. You got to like take meetings, you got to get on Facebook, you got to network, you got to like do those things, because like I said, I mean, literally every job that I've gotten in the last 12 years has been because of AFI.
That's incredible, and that's like the perfect note to end on for something that's about after film school. Although there's so much
Right.
more to talk about, which we'll do a follow up to this because in a few months you'll have like 5 more features under your belt.
I
Uh,
mean, hopefully.
but man, you have such a unique story, and yet you are like everyone should watch this, and like you are the perfect role model to follow, like to be like model their careers after what you're building right now, because you're doing it right, and you're doing it smart, and you're doing it with passion, and I don't know, everything you say is just like for the right reasons. So I'm
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And
really
yeah, I
really
mean,
happy for you.
thank you. And yeah, I mean, the last thing I gotta say is like, because you had mentioned this earlier about, like, what do people have to do? And it's just like, is it the longevity? Is it like the sticking to it? And I can't stress that enough. Is like, you know, the this industry can beat you down sometimes. It can be stressful. It can be exhausting. But I think that that's also kind of what art is. It's finding a way to communicate your feelings, your life, your trauma, your success, your love, whatever it may be, in a format that allows other people to like be welcomed into your world. And that only comes with time. And you just, I think that you don't need to be in LA to be a filmmaker, but you need to continue to make films. You need to continue to do stuff, even if you're not working. Make a TikTok, do an Instagram reel, do something, because that's just what that's what I've always done. Is I always want to be working on something. If I'm not working, I want to be reading. If I'm not reading, I want to be watching something.
Yeah, yeah,
So you just got to stick to it.
you're just a storyteller at heart, man. And you're right. Like you're living up to what you're saying, right? Because you just like you
Yeah,
went to a school so that you could have your hands on a camera, right?
it's
Like that
literally the number one thing.
says it all. That says it all. If you only grew up when there were iPhones, you wouldn't have gone to film school. You would have been
Very
shooting films in
possible.
your backyard. But I'm glad you went to film school because now we can take credit for you.
Right, exactly. AFIs could have now I want to be able to. I really hope that we get to show the movie at AFI Fest. That's the next thing. It's like
Oh,
I'm really hoping that that happens.
Wait, are you formally submitted already?
I think we've submitted.
Okay. I was like, I should send you the waiver, so don't pay for it.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I think I think we already submitted. So.
Okay. Yeah, we got to. That'd be amazing. That'd be perfect.
Hmm.
Okay. And then we'll do
AFI
something.
family.
Do something here at the school also.
Yeah, I'd
I
love
mean,
that.
we got you and like Sean's like honorary since he teaches here.
Yeah, and Anisha, also Rich Song is our post. We got a bunch of
Oh, Rich
Emerson
Song?
people,
Yeah.
or
Ah, cool.
yeah, we got a bunch of people on it.
I love it. Maybe we'll do that producer editor class and we'll have you and Anisha come.
Hey, I like that. I like that.
That'd be cool. We'll plant the flag. We'll start that. Hey man, thank you for sharing. We're spending so much time and sharing your
Of
Purple Heart
course.
with us.
Anytime. Thank you so much, Schwartzy.
Love you, brother. Be
All
well.
right. See ya.
Talk soon. Thank you.